Hey guys, welcome back to the Toks podcast, a podcast where we discuss topics around business, relationships, and personal development. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day. I hope you guys are having an amazing week so far. This week, I learned that failure can be the green light and it can also be a red light. All that matters really is how you see it. I have been through my fair share of failure, rejection, heartbreak, all these things that I'm sure every single one of you have experienced. And what I've learned throughout the process and what has really been confirmed this week is that your outlook after going through rejection or failure is really what determines your output hereafter. Unfortunately, though, some of us, when we go through these things, they become so crippling that we're not able to look past it. And I'm probably going to end up doing a whole episode on failure and the importance of embracing and loving failure. But this week, that mindset and that philosophy really, really solidified itself in my life. And when you're going through things, as we all will, the moment you decide that this is going to be what stops you, it stops you. There's nothing anybody can do about it. But if you, on the other hand, decide to take that situation and say that this is what's happened to me, it sucks, I'm going to feel my feelings, but afterwards I'm going to continue to push. That is really where character is built, and that is where you really become unstoppable, because fear of failure will block you from doing almost every great thing in this life. And who wants to live a mediocre life? I'm sure most of you don't, which is why you probably listen to me every week. And I really saw that this week. I got some news that I wasn't expecting. And in that happening, I kind of had to really pull myself out of those negative feelings and get right back into doing what I want to do, which is be successful by any means possible. And I couldn't allow some bad news to really just stop me the way it would have if I had just allowed myself to become overwhelmed with my feelings. I hope you guys had some time to meditate on the words to live by for last week, which were, just because it's new doesn't mean it's good. And I find that this word to live by really resonates when you have a gap in your life. And this can be a gap in any space possible. It could be an emotional gap, a career gap, anywhere where you feel that something should be filling a space and you have a void. And it's really important to understand that you should not want to fill a void so bad that you do so with fresh poison. And when I say fresh poison, I mean a new thing, something that's new that you've never experienced before, but it's just as toxic and negative as the situation that filled the spot prior to there being a void. So I know we want what we want so badly, and truthfully, we deserve these great things. But in trying to get it, it's important to still have standards and discretion and the ability to say, yeah, this seems nice, but it's really not what I want. And I'm okay with keeping this space in my life empty until it's able to be filled with something worthwhile. I'm not just going to allow anything that's new that claims to fill a void in my life to do so. So I really hope that gave you guys some perspective and also gave you an opportunity to really look at your life and look at the new shiny gold-plated things that are trying to enter into your life, and give you an opportunity to really just take a step back and assess whether or not that situation is actually as beneficial as it seems or not before deciding to get into it. This week, I'm going to be talking about self-forgiveness. In episode 25, I spoke about forgiveness in terms of why I believe that forgiveness is a selfish act, and that forgiving others is something you do for yourself and not necessarily for them. If you want to hear more on that, you can just go to that episode. As I said, episode 25, it's all there, very in depth. And I still stand by those opinions till this day and till forever. But in talking about forgiveness, I realized that not talking about self forgiveness or going in depth on it was not correct on my part, and I decided to create an episode dedicated to self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness is forgiving yourself of past discretions, past indiscretions, past situations, mistakes you've made on purpose or by accident, just letting go of things that you did in your past that were not your most shining moment. Of all types of forgiveness, I believe that self forgiveness is the most important kind of forgiveness, because if you are unable to forgive yourself for the situations you've gone through or the things you've done, it has a way of trickling down negatively into every single part of your life. And that is really not what we want. On a personal level, lack of self-forgiveness can really lead to a paralyzing type of guilt, and living your life forever feeling guilty about something you did a long time ago will hinder you from doing so many things. It'll make you feel like you don't deserve a lot of situations, or constantly be that ghost in your past that kind of hovers over your current situation. In business, when you have made a mistake in the past, especially in entrepreneurship, if you've made a mistake in the past and it led to something negative, like the extreme of a failed business or a missed opportunity due to a mistake that you made, it can really stop you from being able to trust yourself and the decisions you make. And when you own a business, or if you're in a position at work where you're supposed to be a person who is a decision maker, the lack of trust can be very debilitating in that spot, because every time you're supposed to make a decision, you'll end up stopping yourself, which is what I was talking about in the first part, which is guilt paralyzing you. You'll stop yourself from being able to make that decision. And it's not necessarily because of a justified reason, but as I said, it's that ghost that seems to linger around and hover over every single situation you're in. And that is not what you want. In relationships, lack of self-forgiveness, if the thing you're not forgiving yourself for was in a past relationship, can leave you very it can leave you feeling very unworthy of love, companionship, or good things. So you end up in a situation where you've met somebody new. This can be romantic, platonic, any type of relationship you're in. But when that relationship starts going well, the first thing that happens is that you get that flashback to something where maybe you hurt someone in the past, or you made a decision with somebody that you felt was the wrong decision. And because of the guilt that you're still carrying from not being able to let go of that situation, what happens is that this new situation, no matter how good it is, there's that same shadow that hovers over everything, which is the lack of self-forgiveness, that has you feeling that you're not deserving of the situation you're in. Yes, the person cares about you. Yes, the person wants to make connection with you. Yes, the person wants to be in a relationship with you of any type. But because of the fact that you weren't able to forget or forgive yourself of the past mistakes you've made, you look at yourself as unworthy of that connection. And in the opportunity, or in the chance that you do end up creating a positive relationship, there's always this part of you that will kind of feel like you don't deserve it still. So it's not necessarily a block from entering into relationships. It can also be a hindrance when you're in that relationship, where somebody will give you a compliment and you won't be able to take it because you feel like you're not deserving of that compliment or their accolades because of something you did sometime in the past. Or they'll want to further the relationship with you or give you certain opportunities, and a part of you will be scared of taking those opportunities because of some opportunity you had in the past that you didn't utilize to the best of your ability. So lack of self-forgiveness really does block you in almost every single situation in your life, which is why it's so important. Forgiving other people, that is also very important because it releases a load off of your shoulders. But a lot of times when we're upset with people and we can't forgive them, there's certain situations where we'll encounter that person. And if we don't encounter that person, if we have the ability to separate the two, we sometimes even forget about their existence and we're able to live our lives normally. But you can't forget about the existence of yourself because you are yourself. I don't know how else to put it, but if you're not forgiving yourself and letting go of situations that have to do with you personally, there's no way to avoid that. There's no way to hide from that. There's no way to cancel plans on that. Every morning you wake up and you're still in this body and in your mind, that situation is going to hover over you and negatively affect parts of your life. Even if you think it's not, pay good attention. There will be situations that will come up and arise where you'll notice that whatever it is you haven't been able to forgive yourself for is really just rearing its ugly head and making things more difficult. Self-forgiveness is freedom. And it's letting go of the past and understanding that hindsight isn't time travel. Um, I feel that since I've spoken about hindsight in the past and how it's 2020, but the thing is that when we have the clarity of looking at a situation from the past, when we realize the mistakes we've made in those situations, we often feel the need to go back and rectify those situations. When you can, that's amazing. Go back. If you owe somebody an apology and you can still get in contact with them, send them that apology. Be a good person, do the right thing. But in the event that you're unable to go back and travel in time and change those decisions or change the outcome of a situation, you need to let go of it. You can't spend all your time sitting in the past, feeling guilty about the decisions you made. Yes, those decisions may have been horrendous. They may have been horrible. Absolutely. You were wrong for whatever it is you did. But if there's nothing more you can do about it, it's time to let it go. And for me as a Christian, this is where Jesus Christ comes in to save the day. This is where he comes clutch for me, because I am that person who can really, if a situation doesn't go the way I want it to, and I can attribute it potentially to something in my past, I will sit in that past situation and just ruminate to a point where I'll be pissed off at myself for the fact that I wasn't able to do the right thing then so that I could get the right thing now, knowing that there's absolutely no way I could travel in time. But Jesus Christ died for our sins. That is the ultimate forgiveness. For someone to lay their life down in exchange for you and to say, your burdens, give them to me, there is absolutely no reason why we need to continue to walk around carrying and shouldering these burdens, especially when the lack of self-forgiveness goes to, or it speaks to the fact that you understand that what you actually did in the past was incorrect. So there's really no reason. These days, I just give my burdens to God. There's absolutely nothing I can do with them because it just gets so heavy. It weighs you down in every single aspect of your life. And when you're looking back in hindsight on a situation that you literally have no way of fixing, that means you just life sentenced yourself to misery, because I am so mad at myself that I'm not going to forgive myself of this thing. And there's absolutely nothing I can do to change it. And I really wish I could. What that means is that since there's no way to change it, you're going to feel the way you feel forever and ever. And that's absolutely way too much for us to bear, especially if you're a Christian and you believe that Jesus Christ did die for your sins. This man gave his life for you not to feel the way you're currently feeling. So let it go. Drop it, give it to him, and be able to move on. I understand that this is a lot easier said than done. So what I wanted to do was give you guys a few considerations to help you in dealing with self-forgiveness. Considerations are the best thing we can do because this is really an internal process. There are certain reasons why certain situations in our lives are the ones that we're unable to forgive ourselves for. But if you take these considerations, meditate on them, really think about them, maybe they can help you along the path so that you can actually liberate yourself of these weights that you really do not need to be carrying any longer. The first consideration is that you're worthy of a fresh start and a clean slate. Part of the reason why self-forgiveness is so difficult, as I said earlier, is the fact that we feel unworthy of new things in our lives because we feel that the mistake we made in the past is so huge that we shouldn't get good things and we shouldn't start fresh. But you need to consider the fact that the past is the past. And of course, when I'm talking about forgiveness, I'm talking about regular everyday things. Everything can be forgiven. I'm not God, but what I'm talking about is please understand the context with which I'm talking about this, the demographic who is usually listening to my podcast, and go from there. I don't want anybody quoting me and saying that I said that a murderer should have a clean slate. I don't know. That's above my pay grade and it's not my business. I'm talking about regular life things because sometimes lack of self-forgiveness can be what somebody has a difficulty forgiving themselves for is somebody else's day to day and they're able to move on in it, right? So an example is you exploit somebody and you break their heart, right? Some people will feel so guilty about this mistake that they made when they were 19 years old, whereas somebody else is 39 years old and they break hearts for breakfast. You know what I mean? So the thing with self-forgiveness is that, as I said, it's internal and there's not really a scale. Some people might think that what you've done is unforgivable, whereas somebody else might think that you shouldn't even sweat the situation you're in. But what you need to personally do when trying to forgive yourself of your past discretions is that you need to realize, as I said, number one, that you're worthy of a fresh start and a clean slate. The past is the past. It's happened. There's nothing we can do about it at this moment. But understanding and coming to terms with the fact that that sits in the pocket where it was, but now I am worthy of getting a fresh start. I'm worthy of good things is the first mindset shift that you need to make. Because if you continue to feel that that situation makes you unworthy of a fresh start, a clean slate, good things, new things, you're never going to be able to really forgive yourself for that situation. You're going to always want to be a martyr to whatever mistakes you made in your past. So that's the first consideration. The second consideration is that forgiveness isn't avoidance. And I feel that this is one that a lot of people struggle with, thinking that if I forgive myself for the horrible thing I've done in the past, I'm acting like it doesn't exist. But this is not the case. Forgiving yourself and letting go of something that you've done in the past is you acknowledging the fact that it happened, acknowledging the fact that it wasn't your most shining moment, realizing the ways that you may have affected other people negatively or affected yourself negatively, deciding that you don't want to be that person anymore and moving on. Because when people forgive themselves, we often feel that we're completely avoiding and erasing the situation we were in. And you're not erasing the situation you're in. And by forgiving yourself, you can fully acknowledge the fact that what you did was incorrect, but decide to move on and give yourself that clean slate that in step one you decided you were worthy of. Because I know personally that I've seen people who, I think relationships are probably one of those ones that people really can relate to in terms of looking at someone from the outside. So you'll know some man or woman who really broke somebody's heart and destroyed them. And that person moves on and is happy. They get married, they have children, and then you look at them from the outside and you're like, how dare they move on? How dare they find happiness when they literally crushed another human being? But those two things are not mutually exclusive. And it's bad enough when people on the outside are doing it to us, but it's even worse when we're doing that to ourselves. Like, how can I even move on and find love and be nice to somebody when I treated somebody else horribly? I don't deserve this. You do deserve it, because that's why it's falling on your lap, as long as you don't squander it, right? For somebody to see you and choose you worthy, is because they see something in you that is worthy of the attention, the affection, the resources, the opportunities that they want to give you, irrespective of what you see in yourself. And for somebody to see something in you, it that might be the wake up call that you need to realize that I'm multidimensional. Yes, I've made mistakes in the past and I acknowledge those mistakes, but I am still able to do things outside of that mistake and have positivity and opportunities, even though there was a moment in time or a long moment in time where I wasn't operating in the best possible way I could. So, as I said again, number 2, forgiveness isn't avoidance. The third consideration is that it's possible to have made a wrong decision in the past and be a good person. And this is one of the considerations that you really need to take in. We are humans. Anything that any human has done in the history of time can be done by another human again. This is from the greatest, most earth forwarding behaviors to the most egregious, horrible atrocities that have ever been committed in the history of the world. All of these things were done by human beings, right? So when it comes to yourself personally and trying to get to a place of forgiving yourself, you need to understand that you are multidimensional. You made a mistake in the past. A conscious mistake, a subconscious mistake. You did what you did. At that point, you are at a certain place that for whatever reason, your decision that you now see was incorrect or that you now feel so guilty about, at that moment that you did it, it was justified to you. That was a point in your life, and that was a point in time. Now you are not at that place anymore, and you are trying to do better for yourself. These two people are not separate. This is the evolution of human beings. This is the evolution of personalities. This is the evolution of personal development. There are times where we were justified in doing what we did, even if the justification came from rage and anger. And the moment you calm down, you're like, wow, I really just became a tornado and the damage I did was horrible. You still did it. It was you. And that's okay. And that the reason why I'm saying it's okay is because we like to put ourselves in black and white. I'm a good person, I'm a bad person. But most of life is actually lived in the gray. There is a ridiculous amount of overlap in what we do. There are some people who can see you and think that you're a horrible person, and within the next 5 minutes or in the same line of sight, somebody else is looking at you and they think you're phenomenal and the most amazing person they've ever met. This is just how life is. So you need to give yourself the grace and the opportunity to understand that I am more than one type of thing. I am more than one type of person. I am ups and downs. I am ebbs and flows. I am positive and negative. And just because I've done something negative in the past doesn't mean I'm no longer a good person. So give yourself the knowledge to understand, or give yourself the grace to understand that you are evolving and this is an evolution, and that no one person is just one thing. We are all an amalgamation of every single part of ourselves, and all of those parts in their percentages and in their different lights is what actually makes us who we are. And in understanding this will make it a lot easier for you to come to that place of being able to forgive yourself, because you're not a horrible person because you did a horrible thing. You're not a fantastic person because you did a fantastic thing. You're somewhere along the scale, sliding up and down as life goes by, as experiences go by, and as time goes by, becoming someone who more so leans to one side or the other for the most part. The fourth and final consideration is that now, this particular moment is just as viable as the past. And with forgiving yourself and letting go of past experiences or past negative traumas, it's important to understand that today is just as viable as every other day. Sometimes we feel that the mistakes we made in the past have destroyed our future. They have destroyed our present. They have destroyed our past. But even today, as we sit and as you guys listen to me speaking to you, today will become the past at some point. And it's important to understand and get to that place where you realize that the same way you made a mistake in the past that you feel is affecting you till now is the same way you're able to make better decisions today that will trickle into your future and affect you positively there. Nothing is ever fully lost, especially when it comes to yourself, if you decide that you want to change the narrative now. And this is one of the things that I really hold on to, because you'll see people who have made horrible mistakes in their lives, who have gone through some wild stuff, who have been in situations that are absolutely difficult. And I don't even know how they made it through those situations that they were in. But later in life, they'll get to a point where they're doing so great and so phenomenal that those past mistakes become a part of their story. They'll talk about those things without shame. And that lack of shame comes from the fact that they've transcended so far beyond the situation that it's become virtually irrelevant. So whatever situation it is that you're holding on to and you're unable to forgive yourself of, what I want you to do is really look at that situation. If there's anything you could do to rectify it, do that. Absolve yourself of all the guilt. If there's nothing that you can do to rectify that situation, give it up to the past and try from this day forward to do things that you think are more powerful, more positive, more beneficial to yourself and society than whatever that mistake was. And I kid you not, as time continues to go by, that past mistake that you were holding on to for so long will no longer have weight, because your past is also going to include all the little steps that you've been taking since that moment to become the version of yourself that you are now and to do better for people in life. So just a recap of the 4 considerations to help you with self-forgiveness. The first is that you're worthy of a fresh start and a clean slate. The second is forgiveness is not avoidance. The third is it's possible to have made the wrong decision in the past and still be a good person. And the fourth and final one is now, this moment, today, is just as viable as the past. So I really hope that helps you guys. Self-forgiveness is something that I truly believe in and that I strive to work towards every day. And there are certain things that I don't even realize from my past that are still clouding my future. And being able to get to that place of letting go of them and trying to do better from this point forward is something that I have been applying and seeing so many positive changes in my life because of. So I wanted to share that with you guys as well. And hopefully you'll be able to take these considerations and have a more positive outlook in your life and in who you are as a person. So with that being said, I'm going to get right into our words to live by for this week, which are I deserve the graces I afford to others. We spend so much of our time feeling so horrible about the mistakes we make. We make these mistakes huge. We give them legs, we give them wings, we give them fangs, we give them horns. And the issue with that is that when other people in our lives make similar or the same mistakes that we have made, the pressure that we put on them is usually much smaller than the pressures that we put on ourselves. Even if it's a horrible mistake, we often are able to forgive these people much easier than we are able to forgive ourselves. But just like the people we've forgiven in our lives, we ourselves are human beings in need and deserving of love, care, consideration, and all the great things. So what I want you to do is really take this week to look at your life and look at the places where you're being super hard on yourself and give yourself the same grace that you afford to other people. You deserve it. You need it. Calm down, get off your own back for a little bit and give yourself the opportunity to do better and understand that we're all on this path to becoming the best versions of ourselves. And the mistakes you make on purpose or by accident are mistakes. And you deserve to be able to recover from those and give yourself another chance, the same way you allow the people in your life who make mistakes to recover and get another chance. So thank you guys so much for listening. Have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Bye.